Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to the High School English Hub. Today we're going to talk about one of our favorite text types, advertisements. There's a lot to unpack. Get ready. We know that advertisements are everywhere. They're ubiquitous. And advertisers, they need to cut through the clutter. They need to somehow get our attention.
Well, Mr. Giles, advertisers are trying to persuade us to spend our hard-earned money on their products. So as viewers of advertisements, we need to be savvy so we can deconstruct and decode all those persuasive strategies to see if we actually want that product or if we're being persuaded to buy that product.
Yeah. So we like acronyms to help with decoding a text. So we have an acronym for advertisements that we developed a long time ago. So we're going to bring Aunt Vera back.
Aunt Vera, it actually is Dave's Aunt Vera. So thanks, Aunt Vera. We appreciate you. And our acronym is as follows.
Please call Aunt Vera to eat Vietnamese spring rolls.
Please call Aunt Vera to eat Vietnamese spring rolls. Okay, Mr. Giles, we're using this acronym to break down advertising. What's the P stand for?
The P is the product. That's a starting place. What actually is the product that they're selling, and how do we think a little bit about the company and what they're trying to sell?
Yeah, you can think about product/producer. What is the product and who's producing? And I like that, Mr. Giles. Who's that organization, right? The C, Mr. Giles, is the context and culture. Every advertisement is, as Dave says, a time capsule from a place and time. And we want to think about what is the context? What country are we in? What is the time? What's the background? What's happening in the world that sparks a need for this product?
Yeah, I like the word zeitgeist, which is a German word. It means the spirit of the time, and every ad is going to be from that time. And how does it capture the zeitgeist of that time?
Well said.
The A is audience. We need to think about, who are they targeting? Are they targeting the younger generation? Are they targeting a certain demographic? What kind of person would want to buy that product and would find that ad particularly attractive?
Yeah, the first V stands for values. In 2024, we see companies linking to values more than talking about the attributes of their product. Perhaps the product might be linked to freedom. It might be linked to wealth. It might be linked to precision. So we want to think about what are the values that are being connected to the product that propel you to make that purchase.
Yeah, that's association, connecting to that. We also want to think about the actual text. Okay, what is the text? What's the written language say in the text that helps us understand it? So because advertisements have very little language, we need to do a lot of work to unpack the language that they do have.
Yeah, well said. We also want to think about the emotions and the mood that are conjured up by the ad itself. Are they appealing to fear, making you feel like you're missing something, therefore you need the product? Are they linking to love, making you feel like you need this product because it will bring you closer to a loved one? So you want to think about what are the emotions that the advertiser's playing with and what skills and features are they using to highlight those moods?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, the V is Vietnamese spring rolls, and the V this time means the visuals. We know that advertisements are multimodal text. We know that they are most often predominantly visual. So we need to do some legwork and really look carefully at the composition of the ads and look at the visual layout and really talk about that.
Yeah, that's where your visual literacy skills really come into play. But lastly, we have the final S, which is for subtext. And we like to refer to this as that reading between the lines. What can we infer from the ad but is not explicitly written or stated? So we want to think about what implications can be drawn and just kind of what's hiding in there that could be persuading us in some way but is not overtly stated.
Yeah,
that takes us through our acronym, Mr. Giles. Should we try it out?
Let's do it. We've got a great ad.
What's your eating problem every night?
I eat a lot of ice cream.
I do too. I'm a Haagen-Dazs guy.
I actually ate Haagen-Dazs last night.
Great. Let's talk about it, Mr. Giles.
So we have an ice cream advertisement from 2018. We find this ad to be particularly visually appealing, but also just got a lot of interesting layers to it. I like ice cream, and so we wanted to look at an ice cream ad. So again, this is 2018 from Haagen-Dazs. Let's take a look at this advertisement, and let's apply our acronym. Please call Aunt Vera to eat Vietnamese spring rolls so that we can talk a little bit about it.
All right, Mr. Giles, let's talk a little bit about who's producing this ad and what is the product they're featuring here. What do you notice?
Okay, well, I know that obviously it's Haagen-Dazs is the ice cream company, so we want to think about their logo that's in the top left-hand side of the advertisement, but we're also thinking a little bit about the product of ice cream, especially designer ice cream.
Yeah, and even though they're selling ice cream, that is the product, but it's actually kind of buried down there in the corner, which is interesting. We'll get to that when we talk about the visuals and the layout, right?
And let's face it, this ice cream costs a lot of money, regardless of which country you're buying it in, especially where we live. that you really have to.
Mr. Giles, it's like $15 a pint here.
Yeah, you have to want that ice cream to be able to part with your money and buy that.
Well, let's talk about the context and the culture that surrounds Haagen-Dazs, Mr. Giles. Let's kind of talk about, the culture and the society. Let's dig into that a little bit. What can we say?
Well, first of all, I would say, in terms of the time period, this is a modern day ad. It's appealing to modern day values and modern day ideas. So it's a 2018 ad. It's not that old. It's a few years old. So that's a little bit of the time period.
I think we can say this is a global ad. Haagen-Dazs is something that's sold worldwide, so they need to come up with something that's visually appealing and attractive that can work in a range of countries, and I think that's what they've created here, Mr. Giles. That's really visually appealing that can transcend language. So I think this ad's going to be helpful in a variety of contexts.
Yeah, I bet you could translate that in a bunch of different languages and it would completely work. That's a good point.
The A for Anvira is the audience. Who are they going after here, Giles?
I think they're going after a person that enjoys luxury products and luxury ice cream, is willing to part a little bit more money. Maybe people have a little more disposable income to be able to buy something really nice.
Yeah, I think they're obviously looking for the upper class here. They're looking at a really detailed violin, a precision instrument that costs a lot of money. They're assuming that that person has some musical understanding and can make these connections between what they're trying to express. Not every audience can make that connection, Mr. Giles. So again, these are people with money who have expensive violins who are going to get this joke and this association.
That's right. We know that the values that, I think the advertisement, this advertising in particular, is really projecting the value of precision and craftsmanship that the violin entails. In order to, people that want fine things, I'm thinking about a particular friend we have that always wants the sort of latest, greatest, finest thing.
Yeah. And we want something that's really nuanced and layered. We can see the sheer number of luxury ingredients that go into this ad. And I think they're really showing that precision, that craftsmanship, and emphasizing the luxuriousness of that product.
Yeah. The text itself of this advertisement, again, we don't have a lot of rich text, but I'm just going to read some of the slogan and a little bit of the copy of the text, as we call it. It's down in the left-hand side of the advertisement. Precisely crafted to strike the perfect note, period. First, we find the world's finest ingredients. Then, we mix them together until they sing Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars.
Yeah,
like none other.
Yeah, I have to say, I really, I love the superlative of the finest ingredients. We have that extreme adjective, the perfect note. I think they're being very clever with language here. What do you notice, Giles?
Well, I love that the whole advertisement hinges on the metaphor that's comparing the ice cream to the violin. I mean, when you really look at it, ice cream has nothing to do with violins, but they're drawing that overt comparison. So there's a visual metaphor with all the components of the visuals, but then the language complements that with it strikes the perfect note. So they want us to see how the ice cream is like a finely tuned musical instrument.
Yeah, and then they even personify it to some extent. They make it able to sing, right? So I think they're sort of giving the ice cream life. They do tap into the value with the word precisely. That's from that value of precision. A lot going on with language here, Mr. Josh. Plenty to talk about.
Music has harmony, right?
Ooh.
And harmony is when all the different sounds are complement each other, and they're wanting us to see how their ice cream has harmony. So, awesome. Yeah, we could go to town.
What about the emotions? What emotions are evoked, or how do we get some sort of emotional response by looking at this, Giles?
I think there's definitely the emotion of being proud of your work and proud of they really stand behind the product, and so the company itself is projecting this sort of image, this emotion of pride and satisfaction.
Yeah,
with high quality.
And as a consumer, I feel a lot of confidence looking at this. I look at that detail and that precision, the very intricate layout and spacing, how they've laid out these ingredients. That inspires confidence in me, and that might make me fork over that $15, Giles, for that pint. We'll see, okay? Let's go dig in a little bit more carefully and look at those visuals in the layout. And what's interesting here? What can we talk about?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing I would say is when you look at an image like this, we want to think a little bit about the composition, the way how the visual elements are all put together. So the first thing I notice is the symmetry of the violin components on the left and the ice cream components, making me hungry, for the ice cream on the right. And this symmetry is inviting us to see those details.
Yeah, most of the time we just quickly scarf down our ice cream. We don't think about all the ingredients that go in here. But this ad, by breaking it down component by component, layer by layer, top to bottom, is where my visual path leads. I even see the neck of the violin being compared to that really expensive vanilla bean. And we know that that's a product that's expensive, hard to get. Again, it's just speaking to you can actually see how they're crafting this ice cream similarly to the way someone has to craft a violin. And then we see the interplay, the intertextuality with the word crafted down there. And
yeah, and the shapes, they all match. The way the shape of the violin is sort of actually matches the shape of the ice cream bar, the way it's turned on its side. That's pretty clever.
yeah,
And again, it's done in a studio, but it's very manipulative and I think there's a incredibly pleasing color palette.
there is a pleasing color palette. And speaking of the visual pathway, I love how it ends right in the bottom right corner. The eye ends with the product. You see the box. That's what you'll see in the freezer at the grocery store. So you know how to find it.
They want us to recognize that.
Yeah, you got to be able to
so
find
much
that.
brand there. Yeah, there's a subtext here, and I want to talk about this.
The subtext. I think it has to do with wealth. I think it has to do with luxury. I think it has to do with being in the upper class. What do you see in here, John?
Yeah, I think there is like a status thing when you buy a Stradivarius violin.
Impressive.
That's a fancy violin. You've got the cash to buy that. You got the best of the best. It's almost a little bit of a status symbol to sort of buy the best of the best and be a little bit elitist.
Yeah, and I almost think that perhaps it's Haagen-Dazs providing a justification for why their ice cream is so expensive.
Yeah. Good point.
You know, they know that their product's expensive just like I do, and I know I love it. So they have to kind of prove to me that it's worth that price and that I'm getting good value. And when I see that intricate detail they're putting into it, I think to myself, you're worth it. You're delicious. I'm buying you.
I want to be cynical really for a second. I like to be cynical with advertisements. I love ice cream. I love products. I love spending money, but we want to be a little cynical. Now, do you really think that vanilla bean is used in that precise way that they're kind of indicating? They're making us forget that these ice cream bars are made in giant factories.
Well, yeah, they're creating a false reality.
They're probably making about 10,000 of those ice cream bars in a day. The violin, however, is handcrafted.
Mr. Giles, I don't want to believe that. I want to believe my pint was handcrafted as well. Folks, in the end, we hope this acronym helps you break down advertisements. We hope it helps you decode them and see how people are trying to persuade you. Come on back for the next video. We'll look at a piece of academic writing in conjunction with a table that breaks down these elements further. And stay with us. We'll get you producing some really strong paragraphs. So see you next time.
Thanks, guys.